Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series, proudly powered by leadershipbydesign.co, where we aim to add value to people's lives. You can listen to us live every Wednesday and Thursday at lunchtime on ebizradio.com, where we talk about just about everything, leadership, coaching, and marketing. And you can listen to the Lunchtime Series on all major podcast channels today. In today's marketing and leadership segment, joining me as usual, marketing communications expert and co-host, Craig Page-Lee. How you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm great, thanks. Yeah, we are kicking off 101 shows, ready for the next 99 plus in the making. Thoroughly enjoying this amazing weather we're having outdoors. It's really feeling like summer's decided to push on for a few more days. So yeah, really great. Thank you.
I saw you on Facebook this weekend having some fun running around, doing a race. The incredible, what's it?
The amazing race.
The amazing. I didn't know you could do that in South Africa.
Yes, there's actually a professional team. These two ladies who run this as a corporate event opportunity, and then they go and design bespoke events, and it was just absolutely incredible. 30 plus folk, teams of 4, and a hell of a run around in Johannesburg. You get quite a large clue board, and then you've got to fill in crossword puzzles to get words that combine with other elements to tell you various destinations to go. And yeah, it was really great, incredibly well organized, and cut it down to the core in terms of the timeline, because you're literally traversing across vast expanses of Johannesburg. Wow. And we did it. It was wonderful, and we won, which was really great. So my goddaughter was incredibly happy that it was good fun.
Just sounds like a whole bunch of fun to me. So I definitely need to get those details, because I did.
Yes, and really, really great. The ladies do some phenomenal corporate work as well, which is really exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Craig. So as we did a review of our 100th show last week, can we get straight into today's show with what our listeners, what you have for our listeners to take away today?
So, Kevin, I'm not going to recap what we did last week, just in the sense that it was a recap of previous shows. So I thought we should jump straight into the conversation today, because we've got something exciting to talk about.
Fantastic. When you say it's exciting, I'm like, he's got something up his sleeves. I'm ready. What are some of these? What is this something you're talking about, Craig?
Okay, so today I want to pick up again on the leadership aspect of the show, but actually leadership in sport, Kevin, but more specifically that of leadership in Formula One, which, as you well know, is probably the most team intensive sports in the world. And yeah, as any high performance team would need, good leadership is critical to the success of teams, particularly in Formula One. And last week was the commencement of the 2023 calendar. As you know, I follow F1 very, very closely. But we've had one race this year. The pressure's already mounting with the likes of Red Bull, just screaming ahead of everyone else. But I thought it was really good to go and do a bit of a deep dive to see if there are any sort of clues we can pick up on from the sport itself.
I mean, I don't know if this is relevant, but I do remember seeing someone interview some driver whose team wasn't 100% ready. And the comments that the driver made was he kind of relinquished his connection to his team and, said, well, we're going to have to jack up the team because that kind of stuff is unacceptable. And there was a big discussion around, as the driver, as the person in that car, and as the one that really heads up that team, should he have stood by his team and kind of supported them in that kind of conversation, or did he throw his team under the bus?
That's a wonderful question, and that so is addressed in some of the points of today's discussion.
That's why I'm going
to I am going to stick my neck out and say it was probably Lewis Hamilton, because Lewis Hamilton, he's I followed him for with his particular team for over 10 years, and he just really is beginning to disappoint me as a human being at the moment. I think he's got way too big for his boots. He's more interested in his own profile and fashion range and all these other things that he's putting out there than he is actually being part of a cohesive team. But we definitely will get into some of that in the conversation. Definitely.
Fantastic. So tell us, what have you got for us today, Craig?
Okay, so Kevin, I want to start with an article I came across on australasianleadershipinstitute.com. It's a platform that I've actually referenced before, and quite interesting to see the article titled Leadership Lessons from Formula One. The article was written by Mark Wagger and was published on the 18th of December 2021. And the article opens with a really great paragraph which states the following. The best leaders are learners. Take note, the best leaders are learners. They have a desire to discover ways in which they become better leaders, and they are the most passionate. Learners look for examples of excellence, regardless of the industry in which that excellence occurs, because they understand that where you find excellence, you will find valuable lessons. And a really, really great statement to open with. And then Mark goes on to note that it's the high-pressure, extremely competitive environment and a great place to learn lessons that can help any leader. So let's take a look at the 5 lessons that are covered in the article around the sport of Formula One. So the first lesson that he talks about is to embrace the quest for marginal gains. And this is quite surprising because a typical Formula One car, Kevin, can have approximately 4,000 to 5,000 parts, take note, parts that have been specially designed, and during this 5-month racing season, you'll often find that around 3,000 of those parts will be changed, improved, or modernized during the season. So the key point here is that it's these small ideas and the ongoing desire for that continuous improvement, no matter how small, that defines the winners at the end of the day. Lesson 2 is teamwork equals clarity, trust, and execution. Again, a lovely phrase here. And the Formula One pit stop is probably the best example of effective teamwork in sport, with clarity, trust, and execution being key to achieving this, Kevin. So firstly, there's clarity, that of roles. Secondly, there is trust. If one person fails, the team fails. And so the complete trust that everyone will fulfill their roles. And this talks to the very point of the particular racing driver, having his say. And then finally, there's execution, and the likes of the pit stop team actually practicing around 70 to 80 times each race to ensure they get as close to perfection as they can. Lesson 3 is know your finishing line. So outside of sport, it's not always clear what winning actually is, and is very different for very different people as to what success is and looks like. So where there's lack of clarity, it's very difficult for a team to actually come together to define what that winning mindset is, Kevin. As a leader, you need to provide your team with your own version of what the finishing line is. Maybe it's a sales target in some organizations, or a particular state of performance that needs to be achieved in another. But either way, it doesn't matter as long as it's tangible and within the team's control. But lesson 4 here is it's not about you, it's about the team. Very much talking to the point you raised. And the reality behind any success in Formula One racing is that even though there's only one person behind the wheel, there are generally more than 70 people supporting the driver. For instance, the pit crews, the engineers, the mechanics, the analysts, a media team, trainers, and even a marketing team. And as in Formula One, there's a lot of focus on the leader of a team. The key point here is that it would be wrong for any leader to think they are better than anyone else, because leadership is, as you know, about many things, Kevin. It's never just about you. Leadership is, in reality, a selfless act rather than a selfish act. And leaders are just one part of a team. And like a driver, leaders too have a specific role to fulfill, which in this instance is to actually focus on the team and keep it as a whole. And the last lesson from Mark's article is identify the right mentality. And I think this also plays very much to the point that you raised. So what is talent without passion? Well, there is something unique about the mentality of a Formula One driver, as it's definitely not a job for everyone. However, when leaders build a team, they really need to start thinking beyond talent, because the only part of the equation is that they need to think about what's the right mentality for the person who will actually be successful within the team. And leaders also need to look at what's required to achieve as a team and what the culture needs to look like in order to achieve success while staying true to the team's values, Kevin.
Craig, I love these. These are, it's my. So here's my comments on point number 4. It's not about you; it's about the team.
Yes.
When you consider the amount of money that Lewis Hamilton, for example, because his name came up, for the money that man makes, like if it wasn't for the team that he has and that work at the pace and specificity of what they do.
Nice word.
I don't think he would be Lewis Hamilton, right? I don't think he can just do that.
100% correct.
This is where I look at, corporate South Africa today. I look at corporates in general. One of the comments made about what makes a great billionaire great. I mean, it was a strange comment. So I was watching TikTok and someone pointed out that the head of Spanx, I don't know her name now, but the CEO of Spanx, when she got, billionaire status, she went out and gave every single employee $10,000 in her business. And she actually rewarded them, for being able to go on this journey and be the cog in the part of this wheel, and get the business to where it is. So, when you say it's not about you, it's about the team, I think very often, the people that are shining don't recognize the cogs in the system that actually need to be rewarded for what part they play. And I think, there's a huge misalignment. I mean, I look at sales teams, for example. People just say, yeah, this is our sales target. This is our sales target. But in comparison to what an organization's turnaround is based on how hard the salespeople work, I don't always think that equates. I don't think it's equal to, right? And you kind of go, they are the people doing all the work. They are the people doing the hardest jobs. They're the people doing so much at the bottom line or at the bottom end of this business. Are they rewarded enough and handsomely enough? It's like teachers, like teachers pay the best salaries in the world, but yet they're supposed to educate people. And
correct.
Like there's a misalignment here, right? So, is it about the team, or how do you get your mind wrapped around it? So
there's some great points that actually talk to that very piece. But just quickly, CEO of Spanx, Kim Jones, and she became CEO on the 30th of September 2022, and I think was it BlackRock Investments?
Yes, it was.
It was a BlackRock bought into her business, and that allowed her to surpass the billionaire status. Yeah,
and
quite impressive.
She literally went out and gave each employee that was in her business $10,000 just as reward and thanks for getting her to this point and getting to this point with her. And I think that speaks to like amazing leadership, like really,
absolutely,
because that's part of the team, right? But I know you're extremely passionate about Formula One. Which team do you support and why? So tell us about this.
Yeah, so Kevin, gosh, it is a rather contentious question, particularly amongst my mates, because for the past 10 years, plus I've supported a team that didn't win last year. They actually got thrashed last year. I'm very much a Mercedes AMG Petronas fan. And I referenced Lewis Hamilton because he's their lead rider at the moment, at least a lead driver, and he really is a bit of a thorn in the side of the team for me at the moment. But I definitely will continue to supporting that team for a number of reasons. Very much around the team ethos and the principal reason I support the team, apart from the great performance they've had over years. Their CEO and co-owner of the team, Tom Wolfe, is just one incredible human being and stands out for me as an exemplary leader in this particular sport. Toto shown incredible resilience the past 2 years, as he actually came close to throwing in the towel with F1 Kevin after struggling with his own mental health through the coronavirus pandemic. And part of this was due to the fact that in the 2021 season, they crammed in 17 races into 24 weekends, which really puts everybody under immense pressure. And he really questioned whether being part of F1 for the rest of his life was really something he needed to pursue. What's interesting is he's very open and honest about his midlife crisis that he suffered before joining F1, and this really came to the fore and challenged him during the 2021 season. But he does again attribute that the staying power and making it through the experience was wholly attributed to the actual strength of the Mercedes-Benz team, which in his words actually helped carry him and carry the ball after revealing his own mental health issues there. And what I really appreciate about Toto, Kevin, is his humility and honesty. And he openly states, and I'm going to quote this paragraph here, "This is not a universal, I'm a pathologically ill. Before I joined F1, I had a real midlife crisis. I didn't know whether I should stay in finance or whether I should do something else. And I found myself at the Monaco Grand Prix by sheer coincidence. COVID came and I didn't know if I wanted to continue in the sport. If I was a one-trick pony." So he was really questioning the relevance of his being in the team and whether he should go back to the world of finance, because he's an incredibly successful financial businessman. But what's great is he's frequently spoken about the importance of the likes of online psychological support, in particular the platform called InstaHelp, which is a platform for online psychological counseling. And because it's been so successful, he's actually become an investor in the platform. And he notes that, "For me, talking to somebody has become a routine. Online psychological support is important and essential to get a neutral opinion." And really great to hear a man of his magnitude and stature actually openly talk about some of the challenges that he's come to face in the latter part of his life.
Yeah, Craig, I think, like if I look at, in the last couple of years, especially how COVID has affected people, it has affected industry, that narrative that he speaks of is, I don't think it's just, a midlife crisis thing. I think COVID has influenced how people live their lives, and I don't think it's necessarily a midlife crisis conversation, but a bit broader as well, that so many people have questioned, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is this like the point? Is there am I really thriving? Do I really want this? Is this something I value? But the second part to that is, I think it speaks very, very closely to who's in my circle. And who are the people for me, it's, people like you and some of my colleagues that I work with. That's, when I'm having a bad time, or when tough times come past me, to pull in the right kinds of people to have a conversation. And it really speaks true to part of your leadership is that team is your circle of trust. Who's my circle of trust? And who can I pull on? Because, sometimes, we have those times in our lives and those days in our lives where we feel like we just like this. I don't feel like this anymore. Yeah. And we just completely want to go live on an island and drink cocktails. But I mean, I think your team, and that's where, you mentioned trust right in the beginning. Your trust and creating that connection between your team is so important.
Yes.
But are you able to share some of Toto's leadership traits, Craig? Because I think, listening to what you've shared now and why, this is the one you've chosen. What are some of those traits?
So Kevin, the traits are really well documented in a great read that I came across in a magazine article on leadership within Harvard Business Review, the November-December 2022 edition. The article's titled #1 in Formula One and was written by Anita L. Burse. And the article takes a look at leadership lessons from Toto Wolff and the Mercedes Petronas AMG team, which, by the way, to quote, is actually one of the greatest winning streaks in all of sport.
Oh, wow.
So the article opens with an important headline and context-setting paragraph, and it states the following. Formula One is the most prestigious motor racing competition on the planet. It's incredibly hard to win a Formula One race even once. The sport is often decided by margins measured in thousandths of seconds. Everything from the engineering of the car in the factory to the multitude of decisions made on the track during race weekend needs to come together in order to produce a victory. And it's even harder to rack up enough championship points in a season to win either a Drivers' Championship or a Constructors' Championship. And because the FIA, the motorsports governing body, regularly overhauls the regulations to increase F1's competitiveness, putting together a string of championships is nearly impossible. Interestingly, Mercedes-Benz did 8 consecutive wins, Kevin. So the 6 key leadership points covered in the article, which are the traits attributed to Toto Wolff, is firstly, set the highest of standards for everyone, put people front and center, analyze mistakes even when winning, really interesting point, foster an open, no-blame culture, trust superstars but maintain authority, and relentlessly battle complacency. So Anita Elbers notes the following from her experience working on the project with Toto Wolff and the team, Kevin, where she states, I learned a great deal about the winning culture that characterizes the Mercedes team. In what follows, I have distilled my observations into 6 lessons for leaders hoping to cultivate their own winning teams, whether in sport or other realms. During my research, I also came to understand how Wolff, with his mindset, values, and actions, shaped the culture at Mercedes. In fact, it was fascinating to discover how much his leadership traits map onto the culture he has fostered. There's a powerful message here for every leader. What you say and do comes to define the organization you lead. And so I aim to highlight these connections. So really, really wonderful testament to the team there. So looking at the 6 leadership lessons. The first one, as I mentioned, is set the highest standards for everyone. What Toto does is he actually sets very clear goals. He sets the highest standards throughout the organization. He sends a message that no job is too small for even the highest ranking executives, and he highlights the role that every team member plays in Mercedes' performance. His approach is a trickle down into every aspect of the organization, and he notes here that when I walked into the garage 10 years ago, it was messy. Now we're cleaning the floors every time a car has been in there. You'll see no tire marks, no tools out of place. Everything is spotless and organized. And this mindset has contributed to the emergence of an organization that is obsessed with excellence, one that constantly aims to raise its standards and reset the benchmark. The second point is about putting people front and center. And Wolff often mentions that he does not run racing cars, but rather runs the people that runs racing cars. Nice statement there. Through this, he's built a people-centered organization where he genuinely cares about the individuals he works with. And he notes that each person in the organization has hopes. He knows they have dreams. He knows they have fears and anxieties. And it's therefore important for him to understand what those are so that he can actually learn what drives those respective individuals. The takeaway here is that Toto Wolff knows that it's not necessarily the best individual who win races, but take note, the team that works best together. We know a lot of the leaders engage in such exercises with their team, but what makes these effective is the follow-through. Follow-through most important. Wolff also realizes that changing an organization's culture is a long, slow process that requires a consistent year-after-year effort. So in Mercedes' annual employee evaluations, and I really like this component, is the leadership team asks people to do a self-assessment of their performance on the team's core values, and the team then spend a day, or leaders then spend a day each year clarifying what the intentions are for the new season, and then they summarize those team goals into a short write-up that actually then serves as the guide for every single individual in the team throughout the working year. The third point is analyze mistakes even when winning. And I think this is something that many leaders can learn from Kevin. His directness has contributed to an organizational culture that places great value on analysis. He analyzes every single race weekend performance thoroughly, regardless of the result. So whether win or lose, their team holds debrief meetings and always conducts them in exactly the same manner wherever, with a core focus being on what can be improved on next time. And it was really interesting to note this. He states that after a win, most people go home and say, that was a good weekend. Well, the Mercedes-Benz team don't go home. They actually stay and say, why did we win? And it's only when they lose the most people, it's only when people lose the most do they really start to dig deep. They do it the other way around. Even when they're winning, they're digging deep to understand why they win, so that they can actually use those small increments to ensure that they move that win forward. And the best statement of me here, Kevin, is if you don't understand what's happening on a good day, you surely won't understand what's happening on a bad day. Really powerful statement.
Yes.
Yeah. Point 4 is to foster an open, no-blame culture. And Toto Wolff believes in a no-blame culture and that analyzing mistakes should lead to improving performance. He advocates this no-blame culture very publicly, backing all team members all of the time, even when they do make mistakes. But he talks about people on his team, and he often refers to them as his tribe, and he clearly stands by them, saying that he'll defend them through thick and thin. And here the important thing is, as a leader, you have to fight that instinct and ask yourself, how could that happen? Have we not provided the right tools, the right training, or put the right people in the right place? And it's just this constant ability for self-reflection and self-improvement. The fifth point that is referenced in the article is about trusting superstars but maintaining authority. And this very much plays to the question you asked earlier on. One of the most challenging aspects of a team principal's job in this sport in particular is managing the drivers who are in reality global superstars, and there's many demands that are placed on them, and each team participating in a race is two drivers competing in separate cars, so there's a lot more of this sort of competitive dynamic amongst the team itself, not just between them and opposing teams. Here he acknowledges that his drivers' capabilities are definitely there, and he readily praises them. But he does understand that anyone can make a mistake, and he will support them through this. However, he clearly states that the drivers need to know that they have their limits and that he has the last say, and most definitely they won't like what he inevitably has to say should they overstep the mark. And the final point here is relentlessly battle complacency. And one way in which he fosters this ongoing competitiveness is by encouraging all his team members to find out who their counterparts are on the rival teams and then commit to being better than them in every way. This motivational strategy is evident in an email he sent to the entire organization ahead of the 2021 season, where he pointed out that Mercedes was significantly underperforming in preseason testing. And this is what he noted. He said, it's all there. We need to channel the force in the right direction. And this direction points to Milton Keynes, which, as most in the sport would know, is the home base of the rival team Red Bull. We have spoken about this in the past. Take the time to find out who the opposite person is there and look at him or her every day. Put the picture right in front of you so you know whom to beat. Each of you, in whatever department and role, will make a difference for our performance for the season and seasons to come if you do the job better than this opposite person. Never underestimate the power of our collective group that focuses on our joint mission and target. And those are the 6 leadership lessons from Toto Wolff and Mercedes.
Craig, I just want to mention just some points on this. Set the highest standards for everyone. A couple of weeks ago, you said something to the remarks around building a business is be better, be the best.
Yes.
Out of your competition, be better than the best, right? And
yes.
how do you do that? And with a mind frame, of setting highest standards is if you don't have everybody on that same page, you simply won't be. You won't be the best, right? I think of people front and center. I think of Heidi from Hollard. Is it Heidi?
Yes. Heidi Brewer, yeah.
Britz, yeah. So, the campaign that they followed and the approach that they took from the implementation of how they went through, her marketing strategy and informing it by that the work that they were reading from Nancy Klein's work.
Yes.
People front and center. Again, we could look at some of the conversations we've had and how these leadership strategies fit smack bang into all of them, right? Analyze your mistakes even when you're winning, because
yes.
How do you get better even if you're the best? Like, how do you do it even better than you were doing it? It's not a case of looking for what's negative or bringing up what's wrong. It's a case of going, these bunch of things are fantastic, but what other things can be fine-tuned? And I think that's what makes a really good team really shine.
And for me, that one phrase, if you don't understand what's happening on a good day, you surely won't understand what's happening on a bad day.
But also, this no blame culture. And I think that's the conversation where Lewis Hamilton lost out by milliseconds. He lost out by something. And his comment was that, it's definitely something he needs to speak to his team about. And he literally threw them under the bus. And the question was that okay? Is it the team's fault? Or why have that sort of narrative when you're part of that team? And why are you not, you're the face of the team. Why are you just throwing people under the bus? So, I mean, it's a definite lesson to learn.
It's not just Lewis who gets drawn into those conversations. Some of the Ferrari guys have had some bad moments as well, and they've ended up, feeling that one driver's had a more preferential setup of the vehicle than they have. So it is something that really does weigh on a number of drivers there. But I referenced Lewis because he just really is becoming a bit of a moaner at the moment, and he's, for me, he's losing the sportsmanship of this incredible sport.
The last point I just want to make is, relentlessly battle complacency. I absolutely believe that complacency is like cancer. It's the quickest way for things to literally start dying in your environment. When you become complacent around your relationship, around your business, around your innovation, around your creativity, around your critical thinking, around your social skills, you can carry on. Like, complacency is like the cancer of anything. It really eats, and it from just working with organizations and seeing when there's one person who's sort of complacently applying because they're going through the motions, that's your weakest link, and that's where it sort of permeates into everything. And complacency, and the thing about complacency is it's subtle. It's not obvious.
Yeah.
It's the subtleties of I'll get there. I'll do it tomorrow. It's subtle, and that's why it's so bad for, especially for teams and leadership teams that are highly successful or highly driven. Any little bit of complacency really it would drive it to the next level. I think it makes a big impact.
Absolutely, Kevin.
Craig, so as we end the show today, what are the key takeaways of our conversation today?
So, Kevin, I want to address the takeaway points from the article titled Formula One and 10 Leadership Lessons, Takeaways from one of the world's most popular sports. The article was published on People Matters in India and was written by Rakesh Shah, a business performance and executive coach based in India. And just to set some context here, to quote from their website, People Matters focuses on providing the world of talent and work with a plethora of insights that enable talented professionals to have an intellectual point of view and the ability to make decisions that create big impact. So I like, an intellectual point of view and the ability to make great decisions. So the article focuses on these leadership principles derived from Formula One as follows. Number one, laser focus. Keep an eye on the targets. A compelling vision with a clearly specified and articulated goal generates its own momentum for achievement. Number two, teamwork. Job descriptions, roles, and responsibilities need to be clearly communicated so that each person knows exactly what is expected of him or her and how the efforts contribute to the ultimate goal. So for efficiency and effectiveness, there has to be specialization of functions. Point three, going back to that powerful word of trust. Trust amongst team members and the respect for each person's role makes for a high-performance team. Point four is about communication. The more fluid a situation is, the greater the variables to be taken into account are. Large team coordination calls for clear communication lines, predetermined protocols for escalation, and actually establishing what is relevant. And the leader must be very clear and transparent in communications. Point five is collaboration. Great leaders understand the power of teams which collaborate and harness each other's strengths. It's a tightrope between optimizing individual brilliance and the organizational system. So here it's about the sum is greater than the whole parts. Strategy number six. Good leaders ensure that they have a strategy which not only plays to their strengths, but is creative. Attention to detail and benchmarking against competition is equally essential, but most importantly, these plans are dynamic with flexibility to adjust to new realities. Point seven is risk reward. Leadership also demands courage and will, backed by the ability to access resources by managing ecosystems of the organization. Lovely word, deftness and decisiveness, along with measured risk-taking ability, makes a great leader. Deftness and decisive, along with measured risk-taking, makes a great leader. Point eight, coaching and feedback. Good leaders are always alive to feedback and do not hesitate to use coaches as a sounding board for their ideas. Effective leaders know their strengths and are confident in seeking coaching for other areas of growth. Point nine is handling success. Leadership, I should say, involves reinventing oneself to stay relevant to the current challenges and demands for the new team dynamics. And point 10, it's a great one to end off with. Leadership, it's about having fun. It's about rewarding and recognizing people along the journey and leaving an inspiring legacy in the organization. And those are the key takeaway points, Kevin.
Fantastic. Craig, I love that. For me, there's such a theme that always comes out when we speak about these. And it just occurred to me that I would generally, I'm like Formula, I'm like, really, there's just a bunch of people racing cars around a racetrack. But the moment you said, the leadership of Formula One, I was like, the what? And suddenly my brain was like interested. And I was like, now I might actually go and watch Formula One and start finding out about their leadership, because that would be really incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
Kind of go, to get to that success, what does leadership really look like? Like you've unpacked it out today for me. And I think that's a whole new version and vision of Formula One that I've never experienced or thought of.
And that's why the Netflix series Drive to Survive is really so powerful, because it does bring the nuances of the humanity behind the individuals in the teams and the team bosses, Kevin. It's a great encapsulation of an entire season's racing in a few episodes, and you get to feel the great passion for the sport as well, but you also get to see some of the personal challenges and nuances behind the scenes, and you get to pick up who the good or the bad characters in the sport are. Have a look at that and then start following the sport. Phenomenal sport.
Fantastic. Craig, thank you so much for this. I think our takeaway quote of the day, you're going to enjoy this one, Craig, and excuse the pun. Henry Ford said, if everyone's moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. Fantastic. Guys, if you want to catch the Lunchtime series, you can check it out on YouTube and all your major podcast channels. And if you check in the link below, every week now, we're going to leave you with 30 questions to evaluate your leadership. So, and every other month, we're going to be changing that up. So you're going to have a free value add. And if you want to get hold of myself and Craig or whoever, go and check us out on TikTok and Instagram and the socials. You can check me out on kevinbritz_LBD. Craig, thank you so much, and I will chat to you next week.
Yeah, look forward to that, Kevin. Thank you. Have a good weekend.